On most days, Gay Kingman can be found in her home office. But on this morning, the house is filled with sounds of family going about their business. For the past 50 plus years, Gay has worked in some fashion with Native communities and or organizations. She began her career as a teacher.
My first job was teaching. I graduated and started teaching on the Pine Ridge Reservation in 1963 and was in education 25 years. And then tribes asked me to go into management, tribal affairs. So I've been in that for almost 27, maybe 28 years. The Creator's always been my guide, and I've always been taught that when the tribes ask you to do something, you do it. And the tribes asked me to go to DC, and at the time, the National Congress of American Indians was not in very good shape. And so I went in, and one of my fortes has been to put organizations back in fiscal order. And so we did that thanks to help from a lot of people.
It was while working for NCAI where Gay met Timothy Wapato. The two would marry in 1990. She and Tim were asked by the tribal leaders to form the National Indian Gaming Association.
I was living there anyway, and so we did, and we worked that for several years, and then we were constantly educating people on tribes and tribal governments and sovereignty and our treaties and why Indian tribes are political entities and have, not minorities. We have a political relationship. Indian gaming, when it first started, there was a lot of people that didn't want tribes to game, to have economic development.
Their greatest adversary during this time was billionaire businessman Donald Trump. It was in 1993 when federal legislation was introduced to deny Indian gaming.
Tribal nations are governments, and it's governmental gaming, not personal gaming, and that by law the tribes use gaming to develop their schools and their resources and senior citizen centers and all of this, whereas in Donald Trump's case or anything like that, it's personal, it goes into their pocket. The press would call periodically and they said, "Are you going to the press conference?" And Torricelli's introducing his bill. And so a lot of times it alerted us, and so we said, "Oh yeah, we're going to the press conference." And so we quickly developed our press release on why Indian gaming should be allowed and the benefits and everything. And we had a young lady working for us, and so we loaded her down with the press releases, and she went to the press conference.
This proved to be a turning point of sorts for NIGA. The media framed the story as NIGA versus Senator Torricelli and Donald Trump. NIGA went on a public relations blitz, but the telling moment was during a House Native American Affairs Subcommittee hearing.
And the worst part was the true story came out showing us, the racism.
If you look at some of the reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved, I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me. And they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians. And a lot of people are laughing at it, and you're telling how tough it is, how rough it is to get approved. Well, you go up to Connecticut, and you look. Now, they don't look like Indians to me, sir.
Thank God that's not the test of whether or not people have rights in this country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
Depends whether or not you're approving it, sir.
No, it's not a question whether I'm approving it. It's not a question whether I'm approving it. Mr. Trump, you know in the history of this country where we've heard this discussion before, they don't look Jewish to me.
Oh, really?
They don't look
Well.
Indian to me. They don't look Italian to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a test for whether people could go into business or not go into business, whether they could get a bank loan. You're too black, you're not black enough.
After the hearing, the committee took action, and of course we had dubbed the legislation the Donald Trump Protection Act, because that's what it was. You know, he didn't like the competition of the other casinos opening up near him, but when the committee went, it died in committee. The legislation died in committee, and so it never resurfaced.
That moment was one of many victories over the 50 years of service that Gay has been part of, and always the teacher, she offers words of advice to the younger generation.
Well, I have 6 grandchildren, and now I have 6 great-grandchildren, and we're raising them to be, you know, Indian, to be traditional, then also, though, to be able to exist and get along in the non-Indian world. And as elders, we need to continue informing those that come after us as to what happened, and that's our role as elders. But there's so many lessons that can be learned from those things. I mean, that you never give up, you know, and that you put your story out there, and no matter who it is, you know, if it's a David and Goliath story or whatever, you know, you can win.